Our text this morning, which frames the cantata, which we are about to receive, comes from Proverbs chapter 3, and it is a text that many people take to be a concise description of the life of humble faith to which we are called. This is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Tell you a story. It's a really great story, and it happened to me and 3 of my friends. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yes, Abednego.
Oh no! Shadrach, what kind of name is that? Meshach, who has a name like that? Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Oh no! Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego lived in Judah a long time ago. They had funny names and they lived far away, but they set an example you should follow today. This is the story that you want to know about Shadrach. What kind of name is that? Meshach, who has a name like that? Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Oh no! This is the story that you want to know about Shadrach. What kind of name is that? Meshach, who has a name like that? Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Learn some lessons they want you to know. They did crazy things, but it turned out okay, 'cause they knew what was right and they knew what to say. This is the story that you want to know about Shadrach. What kind of name is that? Meshach, who has a name like that? Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Abednego, oh no!
Well, as I was saying, this story happened when my friends and I lived in Jerusalem. It seemed like the people of our country were tired of paying tribute to the king of Babylon, which was the country next to ours. So they stopped paying the tax, which was fine for us, but not so good for the king next door. We didn't know too much about this neighbor of ours, except that his name was Nebuchadnezzar. We'd heard that he'd done great things for his country, but we'd also heard he had a very bad temper.
What do you mean
not going to pay the taxes. Of course they're going to pay the taxes. They have to pay the taxes. You can't just not pay the taxes just because you don't like the taxes. Well, I'll show them who's going to pay the taxes. Get my army, get my horse, and get out of my way. We're going to Judah.
Nebuchadnezzar did come to Judah, and there was a terrible battle, and we were all taken prisoner and made to go live in Babylon.
From our home so far away, in old Jerusalem town, we were brought to Babylon, from old Jerusalem town. We were told we must obey, learn to live another way. How could we forget the day we left Jerusalem town? Goodbye, Jerusalem town. Forget Jerusalem town. We were young and so afraid to leave Jerusalem town. Face the world now all alone. We miss Jerusalem town. We were told we must obey, learn to live another way. How could we forget the day we left Jerusalem town? Goodbye, Jerusalem town. Forget Jerusalem town.
When we finally got to Babylon, we found out that Nebuchadnezzar wasn't such a bad king after all. He gave us a nice place to live. He sent us to school. He gave us all neat haircuts. He offered us goodies from his dinner table. No, that's bad. Our folks had told us not to eat that kind of food, so instead, we talked the palace guards into eating the kind of food we were taught to eat at home. Later, when we were called before the king, he said that we were the strongest and wisest of all the boys he captured. He was very pleased with us. Which just goes to show it pays to remember what you learned at home.
It pays to remember what you learned at home all of your days. It pays, oh yes, it pays to remember what you learned at home all of your days. It pays. Oh, yes, it pays to remember. It pays to remember all your days. It pays. It pays to remember what you learned at home all of your days. It pays. Oh, yes, it pays to remember what you learned at home all of your days. It pays. Oh, yes, it pays to remember. It pays to remember all your days. It pays. When you're out in the world and feeling blue, and you've bitten off more than you can chew, there's surely one thing to help you through. Just remember this phrase. Remember it pays. It pays to remember what you learned at home all of your days. It pays. Oh, yes, it pays to remember what you learned at home all of your days. It pays. Oh, yes, it pays to remember. It pays to remember all your days. It pays.
When you've got to decide what you should do, but those doubts are all that nag at you, you'd better slow down and think it through. Just remember this phrase. Remember it pays.
It pays to remember what you learned at home all of your days. It pays. Oh, yes, it pays to remember what you learned at home all of your days. It pays. Oh, yes, it pays to remember. It pays to remember all your days. It pays. Yes, it pays to remember. It pays to remember all your days.
Everything was going fine until one night the king had a bad dream. It frightened him so much that he woke up and then he couldn't remember what he dreamed about. That made him angry, and you know that Nebuchadnezzar could get very angry.
Up! Everybody up! Get up right now! I've had a bad dream. No, not just a dream, but a nightmare. Yes, a nightmare. I haven't had a wink of sleep since 3 a.m., and if I can't sleep, nobody else can. Now get my astrologers, get my sorcerers, get my wise men, and get my mommy, and get them now!
They came scurrying from everywhere, bowing and scraping, shivering, wondering what the king was angry about this time.
It took you long enough. I've had a bad dream, and now I can't remember what it was. So I want you to, 1, tell me what my dream was, and 2, tell me what it means. And tell me now! Now! I want to know right now!
All the wise men must have thought they'd heard wrong. Surely the king didn't expect them to tell him what he dreamed. Finally, one of the wise men said very politely,
"Oh, great and wonderful king, there must be some mistake. You have to tell us the dream, and then we can tell you its meaning."
You want me to tell you? Why would I need you if I could remember it myself? Now, if you tell me what the dream was, I would give you riches beyond your wildest dreams. But if you don't, I will have you cut up into little pieces. Now get busy!
Oh, there once were some wise men, tra-la. They had a great problem, tra-la. They were asked to describe what went on inside of the head of their king, tra-la. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la-la. They were asked to describe what went on inside of the head of their king, tra-la. Now the king was angry, tra-la. and shouted tra-la, got them up from their beds and threatened their heads if they did not obey. Tra-la, tra-la-la, tra-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la-la, got them up from their beds and threatened their heads if they did not obey. Tra-la. Mercy, tra-la, but he would not listen, tra-la. Either tell me my dream, he started to scream, or you'll part with your heads, tra-la. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la-la. Either tell me my dream, he started to scream, or you'll part with your heads, tra-la. Tra-la. Now the moral he said is don't lose your head, no matter what comes. Tra-la, tra-la-la, tra-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la-la. Now the moral he said is don't lose your
Between the king's shouting and the wise men's wailing, it wasn't long before everyone in the palace knew about the problem. As a last resort, they sent someone to ask me if I could help. Well, I'd interpreted dreams before, but I'd never been called on to ask someone, to tell someone what they dreamed. So I went to my friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We talked about dreams for a while. Then we prayed that our God would tell us what the dream was and what it meant.
Who knows what a dream is? Who knows what it means? A dream is like a shadow. It's never what it seems. Show us a dream. Show us a
wise men. I knew they couldn't do it. You know, you can't get good help these days when you're old and forgetful like me. People just take advantage of you. If I could remember the dream myself, I wouldn't need them. Oh, I'll have their heads.
King Nebuchadnezzar?
Who? Who are you?
I'm Daniel, one of the captives from Judah.
Oh, I remember you. What do you want?
I've come to tell you about your dream.
You have?
Yes, I've come to tell you what you dreamed. Your wise men couldn't possibly answer your questions, and I couldn't either, but the God my friends and I worship can.
Well, what did this God say?
Well, he told me about your dream. And this is how it went. You dreamt of a large statue, which was made of gold and silver and brass and iron and clay.
I remember now, but there was more. Tell me the rest.
Then a large stone came and broke the feet of the statue, and it fell into thousands of little pieces. And then the stone changed into a mountain which covered the whole land.
That was my dream. I remember now. But you've answered the hard part. Now, tell me what it means.
Well, it's a prediction about the future. You're a good king, and you're the gold in the statue. But other kingdoms that follow you will not be as good. Some will be like silver, some like brass, some like iron, and some like clay. And they will all be destroyed. But God will set up a kingdom which will not be destroyed and is like the mountain, which will cover the whole land.
This is the most astonishing thing that I've ever heard. You and your friends had high places in my government. I'll even save the wise men. How do you like that?
That's good.
In fact, I'll make a decree. This is my decree.
Hear ye, hear ye.
Your God is a God of gods.
Our God is a God of gods.
Your God is a Lord of kings.
Our God is the Lord of kings.
A revealer of secrets.
A revealer of secrets.
Praise the Lord your God.
Praise the Lord our God. Let the people praise. Let the people praise. Let the people praise our God.
It was a great day. Everything was going fine for a while. Then the king got a bright idea.
I've got a bright idea. I'm going to call all the princes and the governors and the captains and the judges and the treasurers and the counselors and the sheriffs and the rulers of all the provinces in the land to come to the image that will be set up. And
But that is not all he did. At the dedication of the image, he made an announcement.
now hear this, all the princes and the governors and the captains and the judges and the treasurers and the sheriffs and the rulers of all the provinces, from this time on, when you hear that sound of the horn and the pipe and the lyre and the psaltery and the harp and the bagpipe, you will bow down to the image which I, the king, have set up, or you will be burned in the fiery furnace.
Well, my friends and I couldn't believe our ears. We liked the king, and he had been very kind to us, but we couldn't obey his law. We couldn't bow down to a statue. We worshiped the one true God, and his law said, do not worship idols. It was a very hard decision, but in the end, we knew what we had to do.
Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know. Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know. Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know.
The king said, bow down and pray. Worship my idol every day. And do it now without delay.
What do you say? What do you say? We say no, no, no. We say no, no, no. We say no, no, no. We say no, no, no.
Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know.
Yes, we know when to say no. Yes.
if you don't obey, you won't survive another day, 'cause you'll be baked like potter's clay.
What do you say? You say, what do you say? We say no, no, no. We say no, no, no. We say no, no, no. We say no, no, no.
Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know. Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know.
Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know.
Now God says there's just one way, no other God shall you obey, and your allegiance I'll repay.
What do you say?
You say, what do you say? We say yes, yes, yes. We say yes, yes, yes. We say yes, yes, yes. We say yes, yes, yes.
Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know. Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know.
Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know.
Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know. Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know.
Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know. Yes, we know when to say no. Yes, we know. Yes, we know. Yes, we know.
You might have guessed it didn't take long before somebody tattled to the king. King, did you know that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are not worshiping your image? Well, the king didn't know, so he called Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to stand before him.
Now, boys, is it true that you're not worshiping my image? Now, don't answer too quickly now. I want to be fair. If you bow down now, I will forget everything happened. But if you don't, I will have you thrown into a burning, fiery furnace.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego just looked at the king and said,
No, we will not worship your idol.
No? What do you mean, no? This is how you repay my kindness? Guards, tie these boys in knots tightly and throw them into the furnace. Show them no mercy.
So they heated the furnace, and they took my friends and threw them in. And then something very strange began to happen. Nebuchadnezzar bent down to get a good look inside the furnace. Then he bent down to get an even better look because he couldn't believe what he saw.
It isn't hot in the furnace, man. It isn't hot in the furnace, man. It isn't hot in the furnace, man. This furnace is cool. Oh, in the furnace, man. Yes, it's cool. Woo! In the furnace, man. Yes, it's cool. In the furnace, man. This furnace is cool.
This furnace was hot to other men, but it cooled right off when we came in. Now God takes care of those who trust, and we know God will care for us.
It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool.
We told the king we're sorry, man. That law defies what God commands. We'll have to take the consequence and trust the Lord for our defense.
It's cool. It's cool. It's cool.
without a sound. We thought we'd have a look around. We'd roast a while and have some fun and leave again when we were done.
That furnace was hot and glowing red. We thought they'd burn like homemade bread, but they didn't burn and they didn't run, and God just smiled and said, "Well done."
I want you to just picture this scene. There is Nebuchadnezzar staring into the furnace and not believing what he sees. And there are crowds of people staring at Nebuchadnezzar. And there's the furnace. And it's so hot it's glowing. And inside the furnace are my three friends. But are they in pain? Are they in trouble? No, sir. They're having a ball. The furnace is not facing them one bit. They're enjoying themselves. And that is making the king very nervous. But there's something that's making the king even more nervous than that. Now, there are 4 people in the furnace. The king put in 3, but now there are 4. Nebuchadnezzar has counted them carefully, and he just can't understand how or why. Simple. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had trusted their God to be with them, and he is right there in that furnace. Now the king has a problem. If that God can save those 3 boys, what will he do to a hot-headed king? So what is the king to do? He can't even get their attention. The boys just look at each other and smile, as if to say, this furnace isn't so hot. In fact, this furnace is cool.
In the furnace, man. This is cool. Woo! In the furnace, man. This is cool. In the furnace, man. This furnace is cool. Cool, cool, cool,
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, come out of that furnace right now! Please?
And you know what? They did. They came right out of that furnace and marched straight up to the king.
Oh, I take back everything I said about your God not being able to deliver. He is. Oh, I've been such a foolish king. Oh, I'll make a law. Yes, a law saying everybody in the land must worship your God. And if they don't, I'll cut them up into little pieces how about I just promote you to high places in the land of Babylon? And let us all remember to praise the one true God. Your God is a God of gods.
Our God is a God of gods.
Your God is a Lord of kings.
Our God is a Lord of kings.
A revealer of secrets.
A revealer of secrets.
Praise the Lord your God.